What's up, everybody? Steven here with Neural DSP. And on today's episode of Artist Tones, I'm bringing you tones from the man himself, Devin Townsend. I recorded a cover of his track Failure off of the album Transcendence, so let's just go ahead and jump into it. So for the bass, I used Euro Bass 2 and split the signal between Parallax and Dark Glass Ultra. I used the low and the mid band of the Parallax to give myself a nice warm rock tone, and then I used the Dark Glass Ultra to give me a little bit more high end. At the end of the track, since it's the climax of the song, I ended up duplicating the bass so that I'd have an additional grit track to give myself a little extra kick to my bass. But I wasn't particularly happy with the tones I was getting with the Dark Glass Ultra, so I did something a little bit different with this. I loaded up an instance of the archetype Nolly, so that way I could blend the tones together a little bit better with the guitar tones. Now, I've used this technique a handful of times in the past, and it's pretty popular with most bass players, but at times when you're trying to get your bass distorted tones to match those of your guitars, using a similar amp sim to get your tones to be a little bit more seamless will always help. Just because it's a guitar sim doesn't mean you can't use bass on it. For guitars, Devin has a lot of signature models equipped with his signature Fishman Fluence pickups. Now, I don't have any guitars on hand with the Fishman Fluence in them, but I do have these great custom-built guitars by Hoppa's Guitars to record with. So I went with their Turn and Dot 7-string with their custom Behemoth pickups to record rhythms, and I used the Judge with the Inception and Interstellar pickups for leads. So Devin uses Axe-Fx 3, but he's been known to use PV5150s and Mesa Boogie dual rectifiers and stilettos, so I went with the Fortin NTS and the Archetype Nolly third head. For the intro guitars, I had the Fortin NTS going into the impulse response section of the Archetype Nolly. Then I had that running through to an instance of the Archetype Abasi to use the effects section. Now, I really like how Devin dials in his delay and reverb. So if you see how I set up the delay, it's a very long delay and it's also very, very dark. So you get this bloom of audio, but you don't have the highs of the pick attack to really distract you from the notes that are being played. And then you have the reverb, which the dry wet is up a little bit, so is the pre-delay and the decay. So that way you have just this nice pillow of audio underneath your guitar playing. So I want to break down a little bit about how I used the Fortin NTS to get my rhythm tone. So let's go over the pedal section first. I'm using the hex drive to boost the signal into the head so that way it saturates the gain structure in the head more. I do have the drive knob turned up just a little bit on the hex drive just to give it just a tiny bit of saturation on the way in. But let's talk about the gain section here. Now the gain is up kind of high, but I did pull down the girth so that way the low end wasn't really getting in the way of the rest of the signal. When the girth gets up a little bit too high, it loses that percussive quality of the playing. It gets a little bit too saturated and the vision of having a little bit more percussive in between notes gets a little bit lost in the translation. For the leads, I went with the first head in the Archetype Abasi. Since he records with wah and I didn't really have the time to really integrate wah into my system, I just pulled up a plugin and then automated the parameter of the wah pedal itself. So that is how I would dial in some Devin Townsend tones. And I want to say this is probably the most challenging mix cover that I've tried to do thus far. So Devin's arrangements really are so epic in scale, not just because of how they're played, but also because of the number of instruments, woodwinds, choirs, brass, and string that are used in the instrumentation. And I think I got sorta close. I did the best I could with what I had and continued to A-B back and forth between the original track and what I had, and it sounds alright. But it just goes to show how good of a compositionalist Devin Townsend is, being able to write and arrange such epically massive songs together. And having said that, that's it for today. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Links to the multi-tracks and the presets are in the description. Comment down below, let me know what you think of this video, or if you have any artists or guitar players you want me to dial in next. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.